All right. Okay. Sorry. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Cab. What's up? All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. It is February the 19th, 2022. Day number 35 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1053. Today, we're going to pick up reading in the Complete Annunaki Bible on page 28, which is the rest. Yeah, the rest of the introduction. We should finish that. As well as My Big Toe in chapter 23. And we paused on page 166. And we're going to pick it up right there. All right, beautiful people. Jen, shalom, shalom. Audrey, shalom. Tiffany. Hey, girl. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and do this Shema, which is found in Deuteronomy. Everybody know it by now. Chapter 6. It is a call for a wholehearted commitment. I'm looking to see what we may possibly adjust what we do in the morning too. For now, it's working. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. The Lord your God will soon bring you into the land he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget the Lord who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear the Lord your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for the Lord your God who lives among you is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test the Lord your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of the Lord your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as the Lord said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that the Lord our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. The Lord did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And the Lord our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands the Lord our God has given unto us. Linda, morning. Alicia. Hey, girl, hey. All right, y'all. Complete Annunaki Bible. Page 28. Okay, so this starts a new section within the introduction, and it's entitled Toward a New Vision, Egypto-Babylonian Reconstruction. Okay. Let me make sure this is all the way up. Ooh. I mean, I guess YouTube can hear me. Nobody said that they couldn't. I double checked my volume because I remember I turned it down last night and it was all the way down. But I guess when I'm recording, it just automatically adjusts the volume anyway. But just in case, I just turned it all the way up. Okay. While many folk are familiar with and taught traditional knowledge and lore of the classical era of Romans and Greeks, with occasional ventures into pop culture mythologies of Egyptians, it seems that little or no attention is given to the source of all these, the Mesopotamian region and the ancient Near East. What is even more counterproductive for Western world seekers, the politics with current world leaders and sects from the modern Middle East clouds the abilities to accept anything from that region's history. Ooh, ain't that the truth? Oh my gosh, let me read that again. Because you know they call the upper part of Africa the Middle East when it's really no such thing. It's Africa, my G. You're screwing with the people's minds, all right? Messing with the maps. And it clouds your thinking, and you don't even realize it. Okay. I read that sentence again. What is even more counterproductive for Western world seekers, the politics with current world leaders and sects from the modern Middle East, and they have Middle East in quotations. What is even more counterproductive for Western world seekers, the politics with current world leaders and sects from the modern Middle East clouds the abilities to accept anything from that region's history. And what's more, being that the traditions are pre-Christian in origin and agricultural or earth-oriented, they are subject to the same negative stereotypes that contemporary folk associate with any and all things considered heathen or pagan without just cause. It is important to understand that the study of this lore and observation of diverse traditions are not restricted to a particular region or culture. They simply originate from a certain source, as did human civilization as a whole. With the spread of the human race followed the spread of traditions, taking on new forms and colors as it passed from generation to generation across the expanse of the planet. Life-giving powers and their spiritual symbolic representations are also influenced by time and geography, while the sanctity of sacred fire and flame become apparent in traditions and systems of West and North. The original traditions in dry regions more closely identify with the waters of life controlled by Enki. And here's reference 17, and down at the bottom, the footnote, it says Enki, called Ea in Sumerian, meaning home of the deep, also known as Ptah, Ptah, in Egyptian tradition, according to Zechariah Sitchin. The name Mesopotamia literally means between or midway of two rivers, referring to the Euphrates and the Tigris. So remember in the Lost Book of Enki, it talked about the land of two narrows. Remember, we talked about it just a little bit, the land of two narrows, or in our terms today, the land of the two great rivers. And we figured out it was the Euphrates and the Tigris. Okay. The name Mesopotamia literally means between or midway of two rivers, referring to the Euphrates and the Tigris. Sacredness of water continues in all originating cultures connected to the source tradition, non-nomadic, emerged or cultivated around key waterways, the Indus River Valley, the Nile, the Danube, or the Danube is also called the Rhone or Rhine. And Rhone is spelled Rhune, and it has like / Rhine, Rhine. And eventually even the Amazon. Sumerians called the Euphrates Buranun, or Buran Un, Buranan. Yeah, I think that's how you say that. Okay. Sumerians called the Euphrates Buranan, and it was also known as Parath or Puratu, Pu.Ra.Tu, Puratu. And with the periods breaking up the letters, they're all in capital. They're all in capital letters. Okay. The 1,800-mile-long river begins to rise in late March, just about the time of the spring equinox, recognized as the start of the annual zodiacal wheel, and also the famous Akiti New Year festival. The Tigris, known as Idi Iklat, yeah. Idiiklat, and it's broken up by periods. If you got the book, you'll see it. Okay, the Tigris, known as Idi Iklat, and Idigna, and called the Serpent River by some Arab sects, is somewhat shorter at only 1,150 miles and begins to rise at the opposite half of the year, usually coinciding with the autumn equinox. According to historical geologists, the flow of the Euphrates has actually moved westward with age, and there is actually more land in Babylonia at present than during the ancient times, given the shrinking of the Persian Gulf by 72 feet per year. Fertile alluvial soil in the southern Babylonia created a distinct environment by contrast to the Fertile alluvial soil in southern Babylonia created a distinct environment by contrast to the northern regions of Mesopotamia. Even the Babylonian region was divided between southern Sumer and northern Akkad or Agad. Each city-state was originally ruled by its own Pasti, Patesi, until eventually battle for supremacy resonated in a unification of the two lands, as similarly occurred later in Egypt under a single king of Sumer and Akkad, eventually known as the Lugal or Great Man. The esteem of this position also included a mention in the Book of Kings, King's List, Tablet K, and local government was watched over by priest kings who adhered to a Book of the Law, Tablet L, of which the Code of Hammurabi was largely based on. During the rule of Hammurabi, a clearly defined class system of social organization is instilled. The code defines three main divisions: the Emilim, which is the kings, priests, and other government officials; the Mushkinu, a common peasantry similar to the serfs, F; Serfs, and the wardom, or slaves, often compared to the fala of Egypt. The real estate in the nation or realm was marked by boundary stones, which the Kassites called kaduru. The society encouraged skilled specialization based on an individual's birthright and abilities. They also arranged marriages within a class, performing the marriage ceremony at the home of the bride or perhaps her family, where the origins of a bridal veil can also be found. It was not uncommon for a newly wedded couple to spend multiple days in the bridal chamber before appearing to the world as a noted couple. And while historical experts favor perception of barbarian chaos, the Babylonians were actually monogamous, although lore suggests special instances to contradict this, where the wife of a wealthy man was unable to produce children or an heir. A particular high infant mortality rate may also have gave way to a need for controlled baby farming. Priests and Ishtar maidens, or temple virgins, wore white attire for religious occasions, illustrating an ideology of cleanliness and purity in their spirituality. Pious sanitation among priests also included shaving the body, including the head in some instances. While some scholars have noted this fact as casually related to the insect manifestations common in the damp desert, other more metaphysically inclined folk have noted this behavior among some of the sects of upperclassmen that may have had direct dealings in education from sky gods that are sometimes depicted as bearded and or with long hair crowning them, but traditionally with an absence of body hair, otherwise, e.g. Egypt, or sometimes even reptilian or fish-like. Eye makeup and face paint is also common to these cultures, including black hashes under the eyes, as seen with modern sports players, to reduce the glare often encountered from a desert life. Petitions and requests could be made by the people to the priest, who prays, accepted offerings, and sacrificed on behalf of the population. The craft of priesthood and temple service was highly esteemed. However, there does not appear to be a regularly scheduled religious practice observed by the general population apart from the key national festival observances. Much like the case of Egypt, replicas of the boat of the gods were constructed for the temple shrines. Another central item was the actual altar of offerings or sacrifices made to contain the agriculture geologic gifts from the nation to the sky gods. As illustrated in the Book of Last Days, or Tablet R, once the Anunnaki departed from Earth, material offerings continued, though they may have been collected by the priests themselves, who never had experience with their patron deities firsthand, and therefore continued to encourage the tradition on faith. Religious duties and maintenance of the temple shrines were a significant occupation in the ancient world. In addition to full-time priests and Ishtar maidens, or temple virgins, other stewards also assisted in festival services, including regularly practiced temple choirs, passion play performers at the Akiti festival called Uri Galu, reenacted drama from the Enuma Eliz and the Underworld Descent tablet cycles. So like the mimes, right? You ever see in church, they paint their faces white, and I used to do that too, right? That's what they're talking about. They used to do it back then. Lindsay, shalom, shalom. Yahuwah is one, O Most High, Yah, creator of all life. Let us turn always to you with glory and praise wherever we are in this world. I know, right? Lindsay said, oh boy, has these wicked ones done a number on us with these years of false changed stories. Yes, the truth is now coming out. Oh boy, look, y'all think we read something already. Y'all just keep holding on. Wait till we get into these tablets and I just kind of glance on them. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You have got to be friggin' kidding me, right? Okay. In addition to full-time, I just read this. Hold on. Musicians were also present in the temple, and the instruments appearing among players are reminiscent of elementally oriented instruments and other shamanic musicians. Hold on. And other shamanic musicians and Welsh bards, including the reed flute, which is the air, the harp, water, the lyre, fire, and drum, earth. Figureheads of the priesthood borrowed titles. I'm getting more tongue-tied. Hold on. Figureheads of the priesthood barred titles like Shangu or Makhaku. I think I said that right. Makhkhu. Makhaku. Yeah. There were also tablet libraries written and maintained by the priesthood of Nabu Merkadkai. I'm sorry. Screw these names up. I'm sorry. Not on purpose. Robert Batwabu. There were also tablet libraries written and maintained by the priesthood of Nabu Merkadkai, who were also primary educators in the skill of reading and writing. Maybe I should have said in a class. Who were also primary educators in the skill of reading and writing, overseen by the gatekeeper of the temple library called the Rab Gurganaki. Okay. While the majority of tablets found in Babylonian storehouses reflect trades and receipts of commerce, there is obviously no shortage of confirmation materials to support the rival of such a tradition in modern times. Also note that if we follow its journey westward, we arrive at yet another prime example, that of the Egyptians, once headed by Ra Marduk and Nabu Tutu, the Thoth of the Mardukite lineage, who carried the traditions there, given evidence by the pyramid text, coffin text, book of gates, book of black earth, and the infamous Re Nupert Haru, or the book of the coming forth by day, that most people call refer to as the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And I thought about bringing it down, both of the different ones down here so you can see them today, but I forgot to grab it. Perry, shalom, shalom. Moving deeper into the Persian traditions in the other direction, we come upon a prophet of Mardukite monotheism named Zarathustra, or Zoroaster, who was entrusted knowledge of a source of all being and creation, and of the natural law or destiny of the universe, called Asha in Zoroastrian texts. This discourse first appeared in Necronomicon Liturgy and Lore. Okay, so the next section is entitled First Steps Towards Gatekeeping, and I think, okay, there's one more section after this, and the last section is the Magick of the Annunaki Bible. Okay, and then it actually starts the tablets. Okay, First Steps Towards Gatekeeping, page 31. The magic or practical applications contained within the leaves of the Mardukite Necronomicon cycle are considered unarguably cryptic, but not necessarily indecipherable to a serious or experienced seeker. The follow-up release of the new Mardukite Necronomicon report sheds much new light on this matter, and it has reference 18, which says, Gates of the Necronomicon, edited by Joshua Free, is the Year 2 Mardukite anthology, including Sumerian Religion by Joshua Free, and the Necronomicon Revelations. Okay. The follow-up release of the new Mardukite Necronomicon report sheds much new light on this matter. When the seeker first approaches the core tablets, now compiled in this Necronomicon Annunaki Bible, numerous questions immediately arise, showing evidence that a complete tradition of Anunnaki revival would require a much deeper interpretation from the very heart of Babylon, the Bab-Ilu, B-A-B period I-L-U, and it has reference 19 for Bab-Ilu, and that says, the word Babylon is derived from Bab-Ilu. Bab, B-A-B, meaning gate or doorway, and Ilu, I-L-U, meaning God, star, or heaven. Okay. Go back up and I read the sentence again and I keep going. When the seeker first approaches the core tablets, now compiled in this Necronomicon Anunnaki Bible, numerous questions immediately arise, showing evidence that a complete tradition of Anunnaki revival would require a much deeper interpretation from the very heart of Babylon, the Bab-Ilu, or gateway of the gods, but perhaps even more importantly, the earlier Sumerian origins of that very lore. So if you're at Egypt or at Babylon, you got to go back further than that, because Egypt and Babylon derive their texts that they have that are named Babylonian and Egyptologian, or whatever you want to call it. It goes back even further. So that Babylon and Egypt is not the source. You got to go all the way back even further to the Sumerian, because Babylonia and Egypt derived their source from the Sumerian text. Okay. Even Hebrew, all the way back to the Sumerian text, y'all. I kid you not. Pictorial sigil seal glyphs representing the 7 Anunnaki judges of the younger generation, entities also serving as spiritual and dimensional gatekeepers, were introduced to our system months after the release of the first installment of the cycle, Liber N. Included also are sigils for the supernal. Yeah, okay. Included also are sigils for the supernal trinity. Sarpanit, the wife of Marduk, a patron goddess of Babylon, is included in this tradition because of her very role in the ancient system. She was the original Mardukite magician's personal goddess. Many questions have arisen concerning origins of the sigils we use, and it can be publicly stated that at this juncture for certain that yes, they were indeed the product of personal channeling by Mardukite chamberlains after doing serious spiritual work and meditation at what was called in 2009 Nibiru Homes offices in Denver, Colorado, where many public and private open-door ceremonies and lectures were given from June 2008 until October 2009. Real quick, I want to show y'all something. Y'all know what a sigil is. Maybe most of y'all do, but maybe some of y'all don't. Okay. And I was actually flipping through it earlier today. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so sigils are kind of like pictures. So I actually have a big book of sigils, and with the sigils I have, it has like, okay, so different angels' names or entities that we describe as being demonic or more of a more powerful energy. With what I understand and know as of today, within the last week, I don't necessarily think that I'm not saying I'm conflicted, but I don't necessarily think that we named those, or they named those entities right. In the church, you call them demons. It is what tends to be a more fierce power, but I'm understanding a little bit more from a couple of other things that I've been going through. I was like, I think this might be one of those spooky terms for this type of energy, right? Okay, because just like power to anything. Power can be good and it can be deemed bad or angelic or demonic based on how the power is used, right? So you have electricity flowing through some of these power lines out here, and it lights up, it gives power to the houses and stuff. But if one of those lines get broken, and maybe it breaks, or a storm or something happens and it comes down and it hits the ground, or a tree or something, it could cause fire and burn down the house. We'll see like negative effects of fire not being controlled, right? So like and I wouldn't even say like the demonic is a uncontrolled, because it's still controlled, but it's a more fierce type of power that you don't necessarily need for everything, if that makes any kind of sense. Okay, so, but I digress. But there are sigils, and I'm gonna show y'all some of these sigils or pictures. And above each one, just like it is in the book that I have, it tells you what the particular sigil is for. So we just heard about Sarpanit. So Sarpanit, this would be her sigil. So if they were praying or asking for help for Sarpanit, they would draw out her sigil. Make sure you can see them both. Okay. At this angle, everybody can see it on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so you can see Sarpanit. That's her name. And this right here, this is probably the most ancient script. That's not script writing, but it's actually called cuneiform. It actually looks like triangles and straight lines put together in different formations. I got to get a little bit closer for YouTube so they can see that. Can you see that? That's what you call cuneiform. So on a lot of the more ancient tablets, or the Sumerian tablets, that's the type of writing you would see. That's called cuneiform. Okay, so this would be a sigil. So say if they were asking for help, like I said, from Sarpanit, they would draw out her sigil, maybe on a piece of paper or parchment, or even draw it down in the ground, and they would make their request in front of this sigil. And from what I understand, by drawing this out, it's supposed to be like paging this particular angel or something, just like, oh, I want to talk to Pam, call her cell phone. This was kind of like, this is what I'm understanding. It's kind of like the sign that you're getting their attention, that you're not just calling like any random angel or whatever. You draw their sigil. This particular one right here, I want to talk to you. So it's like that. So that was the sigil for Sarpanit. It's a bunch of them in here. I'm gonna just here's one for Nurgle. And the one beside it is Samas. Okay. Okay, I think everybody can see it when I hold it like that. So, but these are more of the cuneiform type ones. I may bring, when we get to this part, I may bring the one that I have down here so you can see it. It's a book full of talismans and sigils. Okay. It'd only be right to show them, right? Here's one for Inky. Right? Oh, okay. One for Inky. And then on this page, it's one for Anu and Enlil. And I've even seen it to where, like, when you begin to understand sigils and talismans, you don't necessarily have to go looking for one for maybe something that you want to do. It's almost like, I'm not saying that they're mandatory, but I understand that sometimes people need something. Like when people pray, they may hold like a cross or something in their hand, something that just kind of like increase their faith. Like, because I found out that you don't really need any of this. You don't need talismans. You don't need sigils. You don't need any of that, right? It just depends on where you are in your understanding and if you believe that you can really reach out to the spirit realm and get answers yourself without having to use extra stuff to possibly get their attention, right? If that makes any kind of sense. Shayla, hey girl, hey, love and light to all. Lindsay, there was supposedly an ancient cell phone found with those emblems on them. You know what? I don't know. I haven't heard about that. Francis says the lower energy has to be. Maybe that was a misspelling of this word you just said, Francis. What did you... I think that was a typo. The lower energy has to be by you, higher energy. So So I found a problem, y'all. I think my headphones did click on. Hold on. Okay, can y'all hear me? You heard a loud zipper open, yeah. It was my headphones, I forgot. I left them in my bag. So when you said that, okay. I had to unzip. Okay, sound is back, yeah. Y'all heard me unzipping my bag, pulling my headphones out and plugging them in instead of fight one. So when I plug them in, they automatically go off. Okay, but I'm kind of glad that it went out because I grabbed my books of the dead so y'all can kind of see. Okay, so what I should have grabbed was the talisman book so y'all can see that too, but I ain't running back upstairs. Okay, so that was just a few of the talismans. Okay, so here's a sigil talisman for like the west gate that they would draw out. But you could also, I don't know what Dad said. What'd he say?
Try guess.
He said you can have that?
Try guess.
What'd he say?
Let me have that.
Okay, then you can have it then. South gate, east gate.
I didn't show my love for our boys to hear it all.
And I think it's the north gate. Yep, the north gate. Now don't y'all go try and using these if y'all don't know what y'all doing, right? But sometimes it's helpful. Just like people light candles in their prayer or use oil. It's kind of like that. And I've tried it before, not with like none of these, but you can also create your own sigil. Say if that, yeah, the Star of David is a sigil. People don't realize it, but it is. It's a sigil, and they use it. It can be very powerful depending on how much you know and exactly what you're doing. Some people would call it magic. I wouldn't necessarily call it that now that I kind of understand what's going on. But it's really like a harness or anchor for your mind. Kind of like get into character of what you're doing to bring your focus in. So that's what it seems like to me. But you can also create your own sigil. If there's like something that's going on in your life and you have like a special request, you can literally sit and you can draw it out. And even the sigil book that I have, it teaches you, it gives you some instructions on how you can create your own sigil. Like some people have certain love for things, and especially if they'll draw out something, or oh, this is my logo or something like that. And they'll take it, and people even get it tattooed on them, something that they designed and dreamed up themselves. That's like their own personal sigil or talisman, right? So that's that. Hold on, let me find my page that was in here. So that's a few of those. But when we actually get to that, I'll bring that book down in a few weeks so y'all can see it. But also, before I go any further, let me show you this Book of the Dead, just in case. I mean, you can find it on Amazon. So this is a smaller one, right? And so we just heard them say what the name was, Per-Em Heru, right? That's what it is in Egypt. So if you said Per-Em Heru, you know you was talking about the book of coming forth by day. But they call it the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Like, people who are trying to hide information from you, that's what they named this. But it's called the Book of Coming Forth by Day, Book of Enlightenment. It literally is a book of life, right? So it has, and this one, anything by Dr. Muwatma Ashby, you can probably can't see his name up here good. He did a lot of, hold on, let me just hold it close for y'all. Dr. Muwata is Muata Ashby, Ashby. Him and his wife, they did a lot of different translations. Anything by him and his wife, it'll always have Dr. Muwatma Ashby and possibly maybe his wife name up there. If not on the outside, you will see it inside. They are really good translators. Anything by them, I would recommend if you want to get it. Especially, it helped me understand a lot of Egyptology stuff, and it breaks it down. No, Toot, I don't want to eat that. So it has that, and it teaches you about hieroglyphs and stuff in here. But in this one, this is a black and white one. I just kind of flipped through it for you. This is a more black and white one, and it has some pictures and stuff in there. And you'll see some of my highlights going through there. But that's that, and they explain some of the hieroglyphs. And the way they teach it, it's really, really easy, and it's retainable. And so when you start seeing some of these art forms and pictures, you'll begin to remember a lot of it. Okay, so that's the smaller one. And this is the bigger one that I was talking about. So you can tell, look at sitting against my head, right? All right, babe. This is the bigger one, and this one has the fold out. Hold on, there you go, so you can see it. The fold out pictures, and it's really beautiful. Yeah, hold on, Sootie. Hold on. Can you see that? They fold out. But under it, it has like, okay, so this is the Declaration of Innocence. That's what this says. And they have it, you see the hieroglyphs up here, and it's translating everything down here for you at the bottom, right? And so this is a part of the papyrus of Ani, or Anu.
Mom, what's that press?
Did you put water in it? All the way to the top? Press the 5.
Where is it? This?
So, and it goes through, and it just does the
Where is
translation for you. Hold on, Tootie.
Oh my God.
So, it's really big, and it's beautiful. And do not skip over the introduction, y'all, if y'all get these. This one right here. That's the 5 minute. Just press that.
Now press start?
Yes, let's start. Okay, so that's that little side notes for the day because it mentioned it and I grabbed it because my headphones went out. Okay, all right, y'all. So let's go back here. Did I pause? Oh, right here. Okay, let me read this last sentence again. Okay. Many questions have arisen concerning origins of the sigils we use, and it can be publicly stated at this juncture for certain that yes, they were indeed the product of personal channeling by Mardukite Chamberlains after doing serious spiritual work and meditation at what was called in 2009 Nibiru Homes offices in Denver, Colorado, where many public and private open-door ceremonies and lectures were given from June 2008 until October 2009. We have 44 minutes. Okay, let me finish reading this part. Those who have previously studied and worked within either the Mesopotamian or the Simonian tradition and self-honesty seem to innately find practicality within our work. Others, whose main intent is on material gain via spellcraft and ritual magic, look immediately for these types of ceremonial applications first, but they find that it seems to work a little bit differently by our interpretation. The powers of creation are bestowed to those who live in harmony with the universe and the guardians thereof, not with those who make demands with secret names. And that's something you'll find out too. As you begin to come across this, that's why I think it's okay to share the whole magical portion that they've hidden. Because if your motives are pure and right, you're not going to take the stuff that you're learning and just try and use it for immediate gain. Although you can, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It will work because we've tested it. It will work. But I can see that if you get like a little bit of results and that is your complete whole focus, how you can get off. And then you miss some instruction because you're just trying to go after the goal, and not really your goal isn't really to understand all this and why it works and if we really should. Just because you can don't mean you should use it, right? I'm a firm believer of that. But what you'll find out is people who go after it with impure intentions, what begins to happen for them, like he just said, the magic begins to work a little bit differently for them, right? And they don't get the full everything from it, and it kind of begins to backfire. And that's when they begin to be, they get pulled more over into the, I want to word it right. I guess in the, I don't really like the name. I guess the darker side of the magic, so to speak. I still think that's probably the wrong way to say it, but they get pulled into like the negative energy current of it, right? They get pulled into the imbalance of it all because they're not looking at it holistically like they should. So they begin to develop an imbalance. I'll put it that way. They begin to develop an imbalance while using these things, and a lot of time you can actually begin to see it weigh on their physical. Because I used to, when I was like, I'm looking at different people. I'm not just listening to what they're saying. I'm actually like looking at their life as much that I can gather about their life, their body and everything. And I began to notice certain people, they began to develop like this darkness around like their face. Their face seems to, and not just because they're losing weight or whatever, but there's like even if somebody is like skinny, sometimes if your body is sick, you'll begin to get like this dark hue about yourself and around your eyes, and we can tell that something is wrong. And I began to notice that about some of them. I was like, that is interesting. And some of them, to me, this is probably a terrible way to say it, but some of them began to look greasy to me. If that makes sense, but it's like this greasy, dirty type look, and I'm like, something is wrong. So it causes me to go just a little bit slower, just to make sure I don't run into any of that greasiness that y'all doing. Maybe they've tried to take and use some of the stuff they learned, and especially if you haven't learned how to get your anger under control. That's something I learned first, y'all, when I first started looking into this. If you don't know how to control your anger, there are certain ways that you allow outlets for your anger. There are constructive ways and there are destructive ways to let your anger out. If you only understand how to destructively let your anger out, when you get a hold to some of these things, you're going to begin to use it, and it'll work for you, but it's going to come back and bite you because of the way you use the energy, y'all. Right? So it's like that. It's like karma, right? Learning all of this, the key rule is to do no harm, right? We're not doing harm to anybody. You can use these things to adjust your life, but without taking advantage of other people. Different things like you will, as you begin to learn it, you'll begin to understand what I'm talking about. I was like, oh, okay, right. So you really have to sit and think about some things. Okay, is this going to cause harm to this person or this person? If your intent is to cause harm to some people, like without cause, right, it's going to be a mess, right? So we'll get into some more of it as we go along, because I think a couple of the books that we're going to bring out is going to get into that really good. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to put that book in at, but we are. We are. And I like the way they explain it. I was like, oh, yeah, I figured that part out already. All right. Those who have previously studied and worked within either the Mesopotamian or the Simonian tradition in self-honesty seem to innately find practicality within our work. Others whose main intent is on material gain via spellcraft and ritual magic look immediately for these types of ceremonial applications first, but they find that it seems to work a little bit differently by our interpretation. The powers of creation are bestowed to those who live in harmony with the universe and the guardians thereof, not those who make demands with secret names. So if you're a balance and you're a whole, it's not a problem with entrusting the secrets of creation to you. Even if you understand all the magic, it's no problem, because we know you're not going to go out here and be a vagabond like we see in some of these Marvel movies, right? You're not going to be a rogue student. That's why it can be entrusted to you, because you're going to use it appropriately. You know when not to use it and when to use it and how much to use if needed, right? Because you will be given authority to adjust situations, not just for yourself, but also to help adjust situations for other people, to help break them free or get them delivered. And it works like that, right? We use some small things. I may share some of the stuff that we tried in the coming days, but we got to get a little bit further down the line, so y'all don't think we practicing witchcraft. We really need to uncover these hidden things that you may not quite understand yet. Okay. Influence of the Stargate lore and impact of Anunnaki has not necessarily been a secret, but certainly misunderstood, and as a result, misrepresented to the masses. Vague depictions, remnants of a forgotten time where men, physical, inhabited. Hold on. Did I miss a word? Vague depictions, remnants of a forgotten time where men, physical, inhabited cities with their sky gods. I think that's supposed to be physically. Okay. Vague depictions, remnants of a forgotten time where men physically inhabited cities with their sky gods appear on cave wall drawings, pyramid and tomb paintings, as well as other obscure tablets that seem to have become the subject of serious interest in the last century, an interest that includes not only academics and mysticism, but also world politics and social organization. The lore has remained in fragments of traditions from civilizations that dispersed from North Africa and the Middle East across Europe and elsewhere, spanning the globe. As has been explained in the introduction to the original book of Marduk 2009 by Joshua Free, reference 20, and it says, not to be confused with the current book of Marduk by Nabu, edited by Joshua Free, released in 2010, and also within the current book as well as the Tablet W series. And here's a quote that he pulls out. These mysteries were later drawn upon by widespread cultures and errors under varying semantics and terminology, including the Persian Magi of Zoroaster, Indian Brahmas, Chinese astrologers, Tibetan monks, European witches, Northern wizards, Celtic druids, Mayan mystics, and Native American shamans. What's more, these mysteries are at the foundation of most secret societies and occult organizations. And if that were not enough, scholars have spent years now learning that the sources of all Judeo-Christian liturgy and lore originate in the ancient Mesopotamian well springs. End quote. The uniquely Egypto-Babylonian Mardukite perspective explored in this tradition is quite different than the actual Sumerian tradition inspired by the pantheon of elder gods of Anunnaki. Not only does Marduk attempt to take on the title and roles of 50 and the 50 names of the elder gods, but he seeks to...
Oh my God, Mom.
But he seeks to seal his power in Babylon with his wife Sarpanit and his heir Nabu by attempting to control members of the younger pantheon, waiting to assume their positions in the post-Enlilite hierarchy, including Ishtar, which is Inanna, Samas, which is Utu, Nergal, Nana is Sin, and Ninurta, Adad. In the Mardukite Necronomicon, at one attempt for this control of power is evident on tablets from the Babylonian perspective in the Enuma Elish. Quote, it is Marduk who is given credit for creating, not... Yes, Bella. Okay, yeah, it popped open. Throw it away. You put it in the bowl. I'll clean it up inside the microwave. All right. Quote, it is Marduk who is given credit for creating not only the interdimensional portals of dimensions, but also the Bab Eli, gateway of the gods on earth in Babylon. The purpose of the gates for gods extends far beyond the astral initiations practiced by modern necronomical shamans and were actually designed...
Who did this?
And they were actually designed to seal the power of the individualized Anunnaki entities under the power of Marduk. End quote. I did. Put it back.
To clean up.
This is not the physical function and purpose of the gates themselves, only the move to control them in Babylon. The function of gatekeeping truly... What are you doing?
I don't keep scoop it over here, and I'm not pushing it again.
Close that up, please. Close that.
I'm not burning my skin in.
Close it. You're not going to burn yourself. That's why I said close it.
I need to go here.
This is not the physical function and purpose of the gates themselves, only the move to control them in Babylon. The function of gatekeeping truly extends back to most ancient times when priests and magicians of the people were working alongside with the Anunnaki in the creation of stargates. Many times these were created as stepped pyramids, many of the more active ones being built in 7 stages and possessing 7 main sections on their ascent. In modern attempts to understand the personal application of the gates as veils between the material experience and the purely spiritual one, often described as the original Kabbalah, a ladder of lights. In this instance, no literal stairway is constructed, and attention is turned toward the practitioner being the temple shrine, a microcosm or fractal-like miniature universe. Extensive examples of prayers and devotional incantations are given in the Necronomicon Annunaki Bible. Whether you are truly and self-honestly dedicated to the system or not, the often primordial powers from these currents to be channeled directly must be first respected, and so one builds this respect up cumulatively, working through the pantheon as if an ancient devotional priest. Or you can amusingly grab their attention with threats, but see how far that gets you. The magic thus comes directly from the relationships maintained with the powers believed to control such domains. Okay. Where we at? 59 minutes? Oh, let me finish reading this then. And we'll pause and we'll read this last section, which is the Magick of the Annunaki Bible tomorrow. And then the day after that, we'll start the actually, we might actually start the first tablet tomorrow because this is only a couple pages. Well, let me ask y'all this. We got this little section Let me see. Let me read this first, see where we at, see how I feel about it. The 3 keys of practicum. To be clear, there are 3 key points or progressive steps that make this system much more pragmatic or functional to you, the modern practitioner. Number 1, self-purity and the acquisition of true knowledge. Number 2, self-dedication and the development of true understanding. Why are you in there? We might not get to this. Close it. Close it, because you're just playing this stuff. Close it. It ain't going to fall out. Just push it back right there and close it.
I put it on the cup.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mom, don't play with lotion over here.
Number 2, self-dedication and the development of true understanding. And number 3, pure invocation and the execution of true action. Number 1, purification and true knowledge. So it gave the list of 3. Now it's going to explain the list of 3. The first one, purification and true knowledge. The path to power. Hold on, y'all. Guys, get out the kitchen. Y'all doing too much. Let's go. Hold on. Excuse me 1 second. Let me help her get this bowl out here. Come on. I know it's hot.
How do I know?
Yep.
It's not. It's
You
not for me.
Okay, very good. Let's go.
I'm gonna go upstairs and you can
Okay.
warm up the milk.
How to what?
How do you warm up milk?
You just warm it up, but don't. That's gross. I mean, some people like it, but it's nasty. You don't want warm almond milk unless you like putting it in something, like over top of your oatmeal or something. But don't just heat it up to be heating up because you think it's, no. You're not a kitten. Okay. Purification and true knowledge. The path to power begins first by purifying the self, both within and without. In addition to the material and the immaterial, the mind and the environment. Can you be less noisy? Thank you. The path to power begins first by purifying the self, both within and without. In addition to the material and immaterial, the mind and the environment, the set and setting. Without self-honesty, which is the state of being in self, free of worldly conditioning, and especially the last few thousand years of misinformation, a practitioner is unable to fully self-actualize beyond what they have been conditioned to be or know, typically a victim of circumstances, unable to channel and manifest from within the self-made prison. Number 2, dedication and true understanding. Beliefs and judgments affect our personal attentions and flow of energies that use our being as a catalyst. We are all interconnected to the divine spiritual grid like matrix. Energy flows where attention goes. To become an empty vessel is not enough. One must be filled with truth. That's good. To become an empty vessel is not enough. One must be filled with truth, true knowledge, and then only afterward, via dedication and commitment, can it be realized as bless you, bless you, bless you. Hold on. To become an empty vessel is not enough. One must be filled with truth, true knowledge, and then only afterward, via dedication and commitment, can it be realized as true understanding. Personal dedication in the material world means understanding the knowledge of how and why things are, and learning when to give up the hold on the narrow-mindedness carried by all concerning their confrontations with fate. The powers and ethics that bind them are, in their most pure form, well beyond our own comprehension from a human point of view. Number 3, invocation and true action. Powers. What are you doing? What are you doing? Take all of this over there, because it's extremely loud sitting right here on this table. Take it, put it on the counter and do it. You can hear every crinkle and wrinkle that you're moving around. Take all of that, move all your ingredients to the counter. Move your ingredients to the counter. we're gonna stop after this because they tested my gangster first thing this Saturday morning. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I forgive you, sir. That's my 7-year-old Isaiah. He about to concoct something right here. He said, I'm sorry. Okay. It just softened my heart a little bit. Okay. Number 3, invocation and true action. Powers of a dedicated priest and magician, and these are not to be misunderstood as gender-specific terms, are drawn from both internal and external sources. And this is the last little paragraph. From within, the power of this magic is drawn forth by birthright. Let me go back. What did it say? Let me start it over. Josh, stop. Invocation and true action. Powers of a dedicated priest and magician, and these are not to be misunderstood as gender-specific terms, are drawn from both internal and external sources. Josh, listen, I just got on him about making all that noise. Y'all try and be as quiet as you can. Sorry, y'all. From within, the power of this magic is drawn forth by birthright. And birthright is in all capital letters with an exclamation point, right? And I come to understand that by you doing this, you have to understand that it is yours, that it is your inherent birthright, like it belongs to you. If you're approaching this by any other method, any other way, like I'm doing this because they said this worked, let me try this out, right? You have to know, look, this belongs to me. Just like, give me the keys to my car. It's mine. It belongs to me, right? Just like you take your keys to your car or walk in your house with full authority. This belongs to me. What? And walk in like you right. That's how you have to approach this. That's why it's at that point where I realized I didn't need any of this other stuff. I just had to know that it belonged to me and I could walk in it in full authority, right? I don't need candles and all this other stuff. I am the candle, y'all. From within, the power of this magic is drawn forth by birthright. From without, the power of the magic is drawn forth by dedication. And dedication is in all capital letters with the explanation point as well. Combined, the practitioner effectively executes an invocation, which is to invite in a specific persona and energetic current. In our example, the solar lord of Jupiter, regardless of whether we label the current Enki, Marduk, Aten, Ammon, Jesus, Dispater, or Jupiter, the effect is unchanged and dependent solely on true understanding and the ability to tap into that specific current beyond titles and labels alone. Let me read that again, because when you get this, all the titles and everything, whatever you call, you ascribe things to it being Jesus. No, my G. It's really not. And why things still work is because a certain power that you've tapped into, even though you're ignorant and you calling this power something else, you're ignorant of it, it'll still work because you may not possibly understand, but the feeling and the faith that you've worked up causes the current to flow. It'll work regardless whether if you use any kind of name or anything. Just like when I do my prayers. And sometimes I just say, let it be done. I don't end it in I've been stopped using in Jesus' name. From time to time, I say, Yahuwah, in your most holy name. But now that I know that I am the flame, let it be done. Right? Because I don't need this. It's like, I learned it in the military. It's like, if your superiors give you commands, you operate in that. Not just the military, but if you have managers and bosses at work, and the boss leaves you in charge or makes you the crew leader, you don't need to talk to your peers or your subordinates saying, well, in the captain's name or in the manager's name, or the manager said that I can take. You don't need to do any of that. You just know that the power you've been knighted, you've been given the power, and move like you mean, my G, right? When you begin to understand that part, things really begin to happen for you. You can get rid of all the religious titles, religions, and all this stuff, and understand that it's energy, it's a flow of power, right? And once you begin to understand that, your life begins to change. I'm gonna go back to the beginning, because it was like next to the last sentence. But let me read this whole little small paragraph again. Listen. Josh, you staring too loud. Yes, you are. I know. Am I nitpicking? But it's too loud. Yeah, that's a little. Yeah, stare it quietly. Okay. Shh. From within, the power of this magic is drawn forth by birthright. From without, the power of the magic is drawn forth by dedication. Combined, birthright and your dedication to what you know belongs to you, like being dedicated, not hitting the miss it, I do it when I feel like it, but you got to be dedicated to the cause, right? From within, the power of this magic is drawn forth by birthright. From without, the power of the magic is drawn forth by dedication. Combined, the practitioner effectively executes an invocation, which is to invite in a specific persona and energetic current. In our example, the solar lord of Jupiter, regardless of whether we label the current Enki, Marduk, Aten, Amen, Jesus, Despater, or Jupiter, the effect is unchanged and dependent solely on true understanding, and the ability to tap into that specific current lies beyond titles and labels alone. The final introductory secret of this system is essentially revealed with an initiate's first utterance of, "It is not I, but Marduk that commands you." Right? And so that's the end of this particular section right here. And it says this discourse first appeared in Necronomicon Gatekeeper's Grimoire. Right? So we'll pause right here. And I know I said we'll probably keep going, but they done left out of here and got quiet. I could read on if I want to, but I think we're just going to pause, because we're at 1:11, and we're going to go ahead and get into some of my big toe. And I'll just leave this for tomorrow. I'll leave it for tomorrow. All right. So I hope y'all enjoyed that today. I hope y'all got something out of that. Let's hop on over to my big toe, where we left off at yesterday in chapter 23. Who you going to call? But we paused on page 166. Okay. I'll go back up a paragraph from where we paused at. It was talking about truth is absolute. Okay. Truth is absolute, but how to discover it and express it within your being must be personal. Develop your tentative roadmap by applying open-minded skepticism to the experience and conjecture or theory of others. Then modify that map as you collect your data. This makes good sense and offers you the possibility of leveraging the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of others as you define your unique growth path. Adopting a set of beliefs is a comparatively unproductive and risky approach to the evolution of your being and the quality of your consciousness. And this is where we pause. How do you go about increasing the quality of your consciousness? How do you purposely pursue the evolution of your spirit? If dogma, ritual, and intellectual or emotional gropes are out, how do you get from here to there on your own? For the scientists who are wondering what consciousness and all this blather about spirituality has to do with physics, let me assure you that I have not lost my focus and that this discussion is directly on the path to a scientifically legitimate, more general theory of physics. However, we are now and will be for some time developing the necessary basic concepts required to construct this big toe. Remember, toe stands for theory of everything. Because this is a big toe and not a little toe, a larger perspective supported by several wholly new paradigms must be developed. This process may appear from time to time to wander through irrelevant, ridiculous, or far out ideological territory, but if you can maintain open-minded skepticism through the end of section 6, you will eventually understand these unusual connections and their significance to science. Because this is science and not theology, let me digress in the following aside on the process of getting from here, where you happen to be, to there, an increased quality of consciousness. The journey to higher quality consciousness is more simple and straightforward than you might think. I cannot promise easy and quick, but I can promise easy to do techniques and exercises that are simple and effective. For some, it will be as easy as learning to swim. For others, progress may come slowly. Nevertheless, all dedicated and courageous explorers can succeed superbly if their desire to do so is sufficient. Okay, now he starts his little short aside. It's not short, it's like a long aside, and then it's a one within one. Oh, that's real long. Oh, what? Hold on. Okay. This little aside lasts for several pages. Where we at? And it takes us to the end of the chapter with a small one sentence ending of it. Okay, so it's really good. Okay. Pay attention. Hang in there, y'all. This is the first aside. Because improving the quality of your consciousness or spiritual growth, that's what it means. He put spiritual growth. So when we talk about consciousness, improving the quality of it, we're talking about improving your spiritual life and how you operate and how you grow spiritually. Okay. Because improving the quality of your consciousness, spiritual growth, is not and cannot be an intellectual achievement, it makes little difference how you intellectually approach the initiation of such improvements. How you start or what you do to improve the quality of your consciousness is insignificant compared to the act of starting. Additionally, an improvement in the quality of your being does not automatically flow from any external activity or practice. All you need is the will and the insuppressive drive or energy to grow your being, and the path, the process to do so will... Hold on, I read that wrong. All you need is the will and the insuppressible drive or energy to grow your being, and the path, the process to do so will appear before you. Okay, it's kind of like when a student is ready, the teacher appears. As long as you're willing, you got the drive to do so, what you need is going to come to you. Okay, I read it again and we'll keep going. Additionally, an improvement in the quality of your being does not automatically flow from any external activity or practice. All you need is the will and the insuppressible drive, energy to grow your being, and the path, the process to do so will appear before you. You are surrounded by opportunity to grow. Your optimal path starts from wherever you are. I am talking about changing your being, intent, motivation, and attitude, modifying the quality of your interactions with others. Changes in behavior and action, what you do, are secondary results, not causes, and will follow on their own. Primary changes, when significant, are clear, obvious, and measurable to you and to others. The evolution of consciousness is an extremely difficult concept for the Western mind to grasp because we are exclusively focused on the materially productive fact that right results are the products of right action. Westerners want to know what action they should take to get the results they want because they deal almost exclusively with external actions designed to produce external results. They do not appreciate that the internal results follow a different logic. What you are presently doing, how you live your life from day to day, is probably good enough as it is. What you need to change or improve is why you are doing it. When the why, the motivation, and the intent of what you do is right, The what will take care of itself. Improving the why can start anywhere, anytime, because it requires modifying internal variables, not external variables. Nothing must change but you. You can hope and pray for someone else to provide you with enlightenment. Trust me, that won't happen. Or you can take steps to develop and grow it. Do not expect to find shortcuts through the flypaper realms of religious, scientific, or personal dogma, or along the midway of a New Age carnival. You must keep your mind free to change and grow. The right question is, how has the fundamental quality of your being changed? The answer to that question defines the metric of your progress. Self-proclaimed success means nothing. Progress must be demonstrated by clear and obvious results. The answer to how the fundamental quality of your being has changed is either totally obvious to everyone, including yourself, or not much progress has been accumulated. Genuine results are not subtle. You and most other people, given enough time with an individual, have the capability to tell the difference between a wise and loving being and one that is only trying to appear that way. This is not rocket science. It is not difficult to determine if you are making real progress. A significant change in your capacity to love is as subtle as the healing of a badly broken leg. Nobody, including you, could miss noticing the change. Are you like a deer caught in the headlights of Are you like a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car, frozen, unable to take the first step? Because of our cultural belief, we must do something in physical matter reality in order to affect change, even if that change is within our consciousness. Most people are effectively paralyzed and cannot take that first step. What should I do? Where should I start, they ask, looking for a prescription or a set of clearly directed how-to steps. Improving the quality of your consciousness, energizing spiritual growth, and gaining a big picture perspective are not accomplished by changing what you do, but by changing what you are. I'll read that again. Big picture perspective are not accomplished by changing what you do, but by changing what you are. Reread the previous sentence at least twice and think about your need for a physical process to develop your consciousness. You are a product of your culture. You cannot help that. Spiritual growth, improving the quality of your consciousness, is about changing your attitude, expanding your awareness, outgrowing your fears, reducing your ego, and improving your capacity to love. To succeed, you must change your intent and modify your motivation. The problem and the solution is one of being, not one of doing. You can do everything by the book. Meditate regularly, be conscientious, try very hard, go through the proper prescribed motions, and still make little progress. Going through the motions does nothing if the mind is not open to and in pursuit of fundamental internal change. It reminded me kind of like, remember earlier in the year when we were talking about the feast days and keeping to them and how we was trying to keep them like rigorously. And I was like, this is tiring, and I was getting frustrated, but I was missing the whole point of what that was doing, right? It was something outwardly kind of like do with your hands while you're learning, while the internal processes was developing on what I was really to be doing, right? And so when you constantly focus on doing, we got to do it this way. This is the Sabbath, this, you got to do it like this. Oh, Passover, don't eat this is what you got to do. This time, don't boil that. You got to roast it. All of that. That's trying to do everything by the book and not actually sitting down, allowing the lessons from what that was supposed to have been teaching you to sink in and become a part of your being, right? It's literally about changing who you are and not changing what you do. When you change what you are inwardly, it'll automatically reflect everything you do, right? And you become more relaxed, and people are like, wait, hold on. Is you doing that all for the... You don't quite understand what's going on here, right? That's what that reminded me of. Let me just go back. I'm going to read that again. That was so good. Spiritual growth, improving the quality of your consciousness, is about changing your attitude, expanding your awareness, outgrowing your fears, reducing your ego, and improving your capacity to love. To succeed, you must change your intent and modify your motivation. The problem and the solution is one of being, not one of doing. You can do everything by the book. Meditate regularly, be conscientious, try very hard, go through the proper prescribed motions, and still make little progress. Going through the motions does nothing if the mind is not open to and in pursuit of fundamental internal change. The prospect of fundamental internal change can be very frightening. When change begins to occur, many people run away because they are terrified of the unknown. They are afraid of where the changes may lead, which is often directly into the face of their fear and of not being able to intellectually control the process. They find that shaking the foundation of their being at its deepest level is too unsettling an activity. What if the entire I structure comes tumbling down into ruins? The ego begins to fear its own dissolution and death. Fear, and this is good. Sorry, hold on. Every time I go through this, I get something else out of it, but this particular part right here, because that's the part where I'm really, as I'm going through these, the meditation tapes with the gateway process, that's like the biggest thing that I'm having to deal with. A lot of my fears and things, some of it I explained yesterday, I'm having to deal with that. And even this other book that I'm reading simultaneously, like, y'all, I'm reading like 4 books at the same time, but I read them at different times throughout the day. It's almost like going to college, taking multiple classes. That's what I kind of look at it like, which is why I can consume multiple books at the same time. But I'm in this section right here where it's talking about your fear, and you have to like look at it. Like, you really have to look at all the worst possible outcomes. You just got to, because if you don't understand what you're dealing with, you're never going to be able to accomplish or get the victory over it. And a mental process they was walking through in this particular book, when it gets to fear, and a lot of times he said the very base cause of it is your fear of death, and you don't want to die. It may not necessarily be a physical death, but it could be like death of a relationship or something like that, right? So, but this particular exercise, it's in my book. It's called Sudden Understanding. And I would recommend that to y'all. I'm gonna put the book link up there, but it's so good. The whole book, it's called Sudden Awakening, because it's literally breaking a state of like this. If you've been in like a zombie state all your life, it's literally helping you to wake up. That's why it's called Sudden Awakening. And the way the book is worded, it's just like, I don't know, like every single word. And it tells you in the introduction, they said every single word in this book for almost 300 pages is very carefully crafted. And it was designed to wake you up on every level, not just the physical, but your mental, your emotions, even in the astral. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I started reading it over because I started in the first chapter. I was like, wait a minute, that was so much. And I stopped where I was at in the first chapter, and I went all the way back to the preface. I was like, because this is doing something. And I was thinking about it yesterday when I was sitting there and I was reading through it. I was like, maybe we should add this one to it. But I think this one, I could read it But I think it works better, at least from personal experience, because I'm actually reading it with my eyes and not listening to it. They don't have an audible available for it, but actually reading it, it does something. I don't know. It's really good though. But I think it's one I'm gonna recommend it. It's called Sudden Awakening by Matthias Fleury. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But I'll leave the link. Hold on. That way you can just kind of read about the author. Hold on. Sudden Awakening. And the cover of the book is like a eye with lights coming from all the way around. It's like orange and yellow cover. And it's called Sudden Awakening. But he takes you through this process, actually sitting thinking about your fear, right? And he said, let's just look at it all the way to the death, right? Let's just imagine. He's saying, let's just imagine this is a real physical death. Imagine it. Imagine. And it was kind of easy for me to imagine, first of all, because the astral projecting and how the body feels, but also actually being there with my dad in his dying process, and actually being there, the hospice person actually recommended this manual for, and I think they do it for all people who are on their last days of living. And they said, read through this because it'll help with the grieving process and what's actually happening to them as they transition. So it tells you about how, it talks about like the death rattle, and when when they're about to die, they immediately get like this sudden burst of energy, and it could last for a few hours to a few days. It seemed like they were doing bad, and all of a sudden they started doing good. And if you're not aware of what's going on there, oh yes, they're getting better. But me and my sister Alicia, she's a RN, we actually took the book and we read it, right? We actually read it. So when it began to happen to my dad, I said, Alicia, I said, if you get this burst of energy, I said, call me, right? So she noticed it immediately when it happened, and she didn't even say anything when she called me, right? She just had Dad on FaceTime, and she said, Pam. I said, hey, they was going fine, nothing out of the ordinary. But when she called me, she said, Pam. I said, hey, girl. She said, look. And she turned the phone to my dad. He was like, hey, baby. And I immediately, I'm trying to keep myself together. I immediately almost lost it, because I knew that was that burst of energy, and he was about to, transition possibly that day or the next day. So I was like, hey, Dad, kind of talked to him for a few minutes, and he was back to his senses, talking to me and everything. I said, okay, I'm on my way over there. So when she got him off the phone and she looked at me, I kind of lost it, boo-hoo, crying. She said, Pam, get here now, And I think Cher had already gotten over there, so we was there. And I just knew, I was like, okay, Pam, pull yourself together. Let's enjoy these last moments and stuff, because we were praying, Father, heal my dad, all that stuff. But we just kind of knew the energies and everything. And I was starting to learn about a little bit of this stuff already, like the cerebral spinal fluid, just a little bit. And I knew his body had been taken to the edge where it couldn't be brought back. Like, you literally, all your life force has been used up, and we understood that. And so we just kind of, I ain't gonna say gave up on the prayers, like, Jesus save my dad, give him a miracle. Like, it's when you kind of understand how the body operates. Not saying it's impossible. For some people it's not, but for some people, depending on how they use up their life force and where their body is, it is absolutely impossible. So when it happened and we saw that burst of energy, I was a mess driving from Chesapeake to Newport News, but I pulled myself together while I was there, and we enjoyed those last moments. And that's when y'all probably, if y'all on Facebook, when it happened in 2017, we took our last pictures with our dad and everything. And but then after that burst of energy, his burst of energy, it didn't last for days. It lasted maybe, I say about possibly 5 hours. If and I think it's pushing it, probably about a little over 4 hours. And then it began to decline again. And so we had already been preparing ourselves, like, we know this is it. And so we were there, and we had, because our brother was in not California, he was in Seattle, and he couldn't get here. But he was on FaceTime the whole time, and we was just there. And we literally watched him, you know, we were just kind of, I ain't gonna say counting down, but because I love my dad, but still my whole scientific mind is kind of going and calculating stuff. So I'm keeping track of what's happening, and literally down to the moment we watched him and his breath start getting like a little bit deeper. He wasn't struggling, but it was like, because that last boost of energy, they're actually preparing to make that final jump out of their body. Like if you're astral projecting, it's kind of sort of like that. But at this time, when they're literally at the end of their life and all their physical strength is depleted, that last boost of energy comes so their spirit can literally do its last final astral projection out of their body, right? So to me, as I watched this happen with my dad, it literally looked, you know how you like going to double dutch and jump into the rope or whatever, you getting yourself prepared. That's what it looked like to me as he was taking his last breath. He was like, and so I was like, Pam, it's about to happen. And I wish, because I wanted to, I'm like, Father, let me see, like, open my eyes so I can like see him jump out his body. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't say that out loud because I didn't want my sisters to think I was tripping, you know, and my scientific mind is constantly going because I can see it happening. And it was like 3 breaths. It was like, he did it again. And he did it one more time. He said, and it was a little bit deeper. He said, and then when he let it out, it was like, I was like, there you go, you know. And so, and that was it. That was the last breath he took, you know, and it was literally, you know, I remember it just like it was yesterday. But so when I got to that part of this book in Sudden Awakening, because of my own experiences with, you know, astral projecting and watching my dad take his last breath, he said, imagine actually dying, going through the dying process. So that's the close I could get to it. So that's why I guess this little portion of the book had a really profound effect on me last night while I was reading through it. So I was like, okay, he said, imagine the body getting heavy, the spirit getting ready to lift off, to go into the unknown. And that's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of the unknown because you don't really know what's after death, you know. So it's not like you're getting okay with dying, but he's helping you, trying to walk through the fear. He said it's not literally a death. It's literally just a transitioning into another form of energy, because you don't die. You may shed this like a snake sheds its skin or whatever. You're going to leave this form of energy behind, but you're going to go on to develop in the next phase of life, you know. So I was like, you know, this is good. I had to pull myself together, pull my tears. I'm like, okay, we can do this. So I would actually recommend that book, Sudden Awakening. Like I said, I'm gonna leave the link to that. It's really good, you know. And it just, I don't know, it really does. Like what they tell you that it's going to do is going to begin to wake you up and begin to look at like everything in your life, how you operate. It is doing that. So whoever wrote, the guy Matthias Fleury, whatever his gift is in writing and walking you through awakening you spiritually, I don't know. And it's not like this, oh my gosh, I'm scared. It's like a subtle awakening awareness. It's like not being woken up like get up, or somebody come and beating. It's like this subtle, like birds chirping, you hearing the wind blow and soft. It's like a slow, so you can keep waking up. So I definitely recommend that. Okay, I lost my spot. Not really. But let me go back and read this again. Pull myself together. But I'm not going to finish this aside. I didn't mess my whole self up talking about my daddy. Okay, but I thought it was needful that I share that right here when we get to this. So let me do this again. Okay. Spiritual growth, improving the quality of your consciousness, is about changing your attitude, expanding your awareness. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I thought it was good. Okay. And we're going to end this after this next paragraph too. Okay. Spiritual growth, improving the quality of your consciousness, is about changing your attitude, expanding your awareness, outgrowing your fears, reducing your ego, and improving your capacity to love. To succeed, you must change your intent and modify your motivation. The problem, And the solution is one of being, not one of doing. You can do everything by the book, meditate regularly, be conscientious, try very hard, go through the proper prescribed motions, and make little progress. Going through the motions does nothing if the mind is not open to and in pursuit of fundamental internal change. The prospect of fundamental internal change can be very frightening. When change begins to occur, many people run away because they are terrified of the unknown. They are afraid of where the changes may lead, which is often directly into the face of their fear and of not being able to intellectually control the process. They find that the shaking the foundation of their being at its deepest level is too unsettling an activity. What if the entire I structure comes tumbling down into ruins? The ego begins to fear The ego begins to fear its own dissolution and death. Fear and belief cause many well-meaning people to reject fundamental internal change, particularly if their beliefs are incompatible with the required changes. Instead of embracing change and facing fears, many would-be spiritual seekers. Hold on. Let me go back. I read that wrong. Instead of embracing change and facing fears, many would-be spiritual seekers focus on the external rituals associated with some type of mental or spiritual discipline. They go to church or learn to meditate. Many meditators and a few churchgoers hope to produce measurable external changes and to have cool internal metaphysical experiences. Let me see. I'm going to pause. Okay, we're going to pause right here. All right, let me read this last paragraph and a half, and then we're going to pause right here, y'all. In the West, meditation is a cultural and an individual rather than a social activity. Many churchgoers continue their attendance out of social convenience, habit, duty, or cultural expectation, whereas most meditators eventually decide that meditation does not do anything for them, or at least not enough to be worth the effort and time required for a long-term commitment. A few of each group pretend their effort has made them superior. The more honest and objective of the failed meditators give up in frustration or due to a simple lack of interest and soon forget about it. I tried spiritual exercises and they didn't work for me. Practicing some form of meditation to effect external change, gain paranormal abilities, placate the guilt of doing nothing, or simply because you think you should, is analogous to a carpenter trying to build cabinets while holding the screwdriver and hammer by the wrong ends. All the pieces are there, but the execution is flawed. Make the required internal changes, and the measurable external changes will occur on their own. You have to grab the screwdriver and the hammer by the wooden end, or you will come to the erroneous conclusion that these are useless tools that only someone else can effectively use, or more arrogantly, that nobody could use such stupid tools, that the cabinets are a logical impossibility, and that all carpenters are delusional frauds and fools. You must realize that you cannot modify being merely by taking physical action within the local physical reality. Westerners have a particularly difficult time understanding this fact and often feel helpless without a way to compel results from the outside. The opportunity to bolt to personal success and freedom by employing a more complete knowledge is lost in a culturally conditioned false commitment to the little picture. Belief traps are bigger problems than most of us think there are. Belief traps are bigger problems than most of us think they are. Okay, and that's what we're going to pause at today, y'all. Because I still ain't pulled myself together. I didn't think I was going to be all messed up by sharing that little portion with y'all about my daddy. Okay. All right. So with that being said, y'all, today it is Saturday, February the 19th, 2021, day 35 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1053. We read the Complete Annunaki Bible starting on page 28 to, I always forget to put page number, all the way to page 34. And then we read Magick Sigil-Seal, chapter 23, starting on page 166, going all the way to page 169. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and do the blessing. I ain't going to call Tootie baby. They already up there making noise. I know y'all can hear them. They so loud. They just been loud all day. But yeah, she upstairs. I thought that was her. I heard walking through there. All right, y'all. So let's do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying on this wise, You shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me today. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m., bright and early, Eastern Standard Time. Uncle JB, shalom, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all, we out of here. What?
Start mess up your fresh air from Dad's foot locker.
Okay.
And I messed it up.
Okay, look. I'm about to go ahead and get out of here, so we'll talk about this in a
pancakes?
second. I'll make some pancakes in a second.
Mom,
all right, y'all.
Mom,
I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Mom, let's make some.
Go ahead. Press the button, girl. I just did the blessing. You came down. I didn't call you, but go ahead. I just did it, so go and end the video.
Mom, we can make an apple pie for Nani.
You always throw Nani in there, so when you say make it for Nani, you think I'm going to just say yes?
Yeah, I want to make an apple pie with pancakes.
And Nani, you hear this? She want to make you an apple pie along with pancakes. We'll get this recipe together for an apple pie. Look, I was telling my husband, I said, this girl must have been a famous cook or a baker in a previous life. Like, seriously. She has, I can start, as she's growing, I can start seeing different things about her personality come out.